This time on the UK Brewery Project, it's Oakham Ales. Oakham Ales was founded by John Wood in 1993 in the town of Oakham in the county of Rutland. John had been a homebrewer for over 20 years, and after he'd been made redundant from his job in the insurance industry, he decided to use some of the redundancy money to set up a small brewery in his hometown of Oakham. The brewery was based on an industrial unit by the railway, only a short distance from Oakham Station and where the current Green Store brewery is based. John had put together a 10-barrel brewing kit and began his brewing. The difference from his normal home brewing was that he was getting access to fresh hops, which led to him creating beers which had big hop bitterness. His first beer he produced was JHB, Jeffrey Hudson Bitter, and I'm going to crack that open right now. It's worthwhile noting that the beers in bottles are stronger than the beers on cask. That's a running theme you'll find with Oakham and quite a few other breweries as well. Okay, so all that poured, and I will, got a little bit left, but whack that on. So I said this is a bitter, very clear, quite light in nose at that stage actually. Yeah, it's quite light. It smells like a bitter though, but not a huge overpowering bitterness on it. Let's have a quick taste. Yeah, that's good. I can see why it always sells well. Now, interesting thing, they do have a little box on the back, and I think it's on most of their beers. So there's a little yellow box there, and on this yellow box for this beer, it explains the origins of the name. And so the name on this one, well, in short, it's named after Sir Geoffrey Hudson, who was around during the reign of Charles I, and he was only 3'6" tall, and he was from the area of Rutland, Oakham. So it's named in his honour. It's maybe a short beer, but it's definitely got a lot of flavour. It's definitely a sessionable beer. JHB actually was shortly followed by Bishop's Farewell, which was brewed to commemorate the departure of the Bishop of Peterborough. In 1994, John Wood gave a young 23-year-old called John Bryan an opportunity for unpaid work experience at the brewery. Brian was a farmer's son, and he'd been looking to move into other areas like brewing and I think he said cheese making, but brewing happened to be one of the areas he's interested in. And John gave John some experience, in a sense, working at the brewery. In 95, after only 2 years of setting up the brewery, John Wood decided he wanted to retire, and he sold the brewery on to Paul Hook. Paul hired Brian full-time and made him the head brewer. Prior to being let loose though on his own brews, he underwent a 4-week crash brewing course at Moulton's Brewery. In 1997, Brian bought into the business as a partner. So he was now invested not only as the head brewer, but a partner of the business. In 1998, the brewery relocated out of Oakham to Peterborough. Their new brewery was in the old job centre, and they had a 35-barrel plant installed, which was mainly from equipment which had been bought from the recently closed home brewery of Nottingham. With this increase, or with this movement to the new barrel, they had increased their weekly output from, I understand, being 10 barrels, which is 2,500 pints roughly, a week, to 30 barrel, which was 8,500 pints a week. In the year 2000, they rebranded. They created a new brewery logo and a standardised bottle label and pump clip design. Now, I remember these pump clips as they all had like ironworks and rivets on them. It's not the current logos you see here, but I do remember them clearly with rivets all over them. In 2001, JHB here won Beer of Britain at the Camera GBBF, Great British Beer Festival. And I'll say, much like other breweries that have won the award that some of them I've covered in previous episodes, the win catapulted their beer sales and raised their brewery profile. So let's have a quick retaste of it. Any excuse for a drink, eh? Over the next few years, Oakham regularly released new beers from a variety of different styles. Brian also began heading out to the US each year to identify and source hops for future brews. In 2003, they began renting a 1,400 square metre site in the southwest of the city in Woodston, as their current site didn't have capacity for the cold storage of the filled casks. By 2016, they had outgrown their current brewing plant. 2006, sorry. By 2006, they'd outgrown their current brewing plant, and they had 3 brews happening a week, which were producing about 30,000 pints. They decided to move their brewery entirely to their Woodston site. They increased the brewing capacity to 75 barrels, which it seemed to be old equipment they scavenged from around the UK, including from breweries like Tetley's. The new brewery had automation built in as well to assist, because it was now actually quite a bit bigger. Their new brewery ominously launched on Friday the 13th of October 2016, and things didn't get off to a great start. The beer coming out was oxygenated, which led to barrels being returned from pubs. The underlying issue, from what I read, was an oxygen injection system being set up incorrectly by themselves. But during the time it took to actually identify the issue, they had around 660 hectolitres beer that had been ruined, which is, put in numbers, over 100,000 pints. I think it's about 115,000 pints. Massive amount. But they managed to survive from that. In 2007, they began converting the old brewery in the brewery tap into a brewery tap. They sold off the 35 barrel kit that they had there. It was rarely being used. I think they said they used about 3 times in 2007 anyways. And they installed their smallest 6-barrel brew house in there. It was meant to be like a pilot brewery at that stage. When the brewery tap opened, it was the largest in Europe, and I believe it opened in about 2008. I actually visited there last year in September, but sadly due to COVID, they didn't have anywhere near the beer selection I was hoping for as they didn't really have any seasonal beers being produced. Where they normally would output about 1 to 2 seasonal beers a month. In 2010, Alex Keane became head brewer and John Bryan became the brewing director. 2010 was also the year that Oakham brewed Citra, which is one of their more infamous beers. And I'm going to get my bottle opener again, and I'm going to open this classic. Now, this is completely different in style to the JHB, just purely because of the hop level that's in this. So let's try pour this nicely without creating too much of a head. All right, there we go. I do like a Citra beer, as I've probably said many, many times. So here we go. Again, it's clear, completely clear. Nice 2-finger head on it, it looks like. And that's Citra. Oh, that lovely, lovely Citra hop coming through. Oh, let's have a taste of it. Oh, that's good. That is good. I understand with this, they were actually the first brewery in the UK to brew a beer with 100% Citra hops in it. And as you can imagine, it went down really well, and it didn't take long to become a permanent beer of theirs. It is a really, really good beer. If you're not into Citra, obviously you won't like it, but I love Citra. Really, really overpowering on Citra, but that's what I like about it. Really good. In 2013, they began expanding their bottling business with beers being sold into Waitrose, and they also began brewing beers on behalf of M&S. I think like their single hop Citra beer, that's Oakham. They also began exporting to the US, Australia, New Zealand, and I think some European countries as well at that stage. In 2015, they installed new tanks for storing their beers, which were to be bottled, canned or kegged at their brewery. But by 2017, they seen that the brewery still needed more space, and they expanded it with a new 900 square metre building being added onto their site. This was to become the home for 16 new fermentation and conditioning vessels. Also, they were putting in a new cold store and water processing facility. This expansion actually meant that Oakham could produce 21.5 million pints a year. Note that's a could, doesn't mean they were, but it's for expansion purposes in the future. If you broke that down, 21.5 million pints, to make it easier and compare with the numbers given before, that's about 400,000 a week. And in 2003, we're looking at, I said, 30,000 a week. So huge differences in a matter of, well, 14 years or so, isn't it? It's crazy. In 2018, they underwent a rebranding of their bottle labels and pump clips, and what you see here is that current incarnation. Now, they've kept a lot of what was on the original bottle labeling. They've just got rid of, as I said, that sort of riveting and metal that was around a lot of the labels. But, you know, JHB, very much the same. You'd easily recognize it. It's not a massive change. It's a sort of a step change. So they haven't ruined the branding. They've actually just made it stand out a bit more, which is nice. In 2018, they also celebrated their 25th year, and they had a press release at that stage saying that they had brewed to date 75 million pints across 250 different beers. Big numbers. Sadly, in 2018, John Wood, the original founder, passed away as well. In 2019, they began launching what they would refer to as their craftwork cans. And this seems to have led to some of their more, I say, recent seasonal beers which have come out into the cans. For example, I've seen this year they've launched quite a few T90 beers, such as what I've got here. And now might be a good opportunity actually to open up one of those. And for comparison purposes, I'm going to move the JHB just out of the way for the moment. Comparing the Citra T90 to the Citra, I believe they're made to the same recipe. It's just this is a T90 hop rather than the Citra whole leaf hop that they may be using. Let's get this poured out and whoops, dropping some in the other beer there. Whoopsie. That is just pouring down the side of the can. Sorry, not sure what went wrong there. Oh dear. Bit of a head and not the cleanest of glasses, as I can see. It's got a lots of bobbles on it. Just be a second. Just give it a double whack and then hopefully clear it a bit. So comparison wise, it does look like, to me, there's a colour difference. There is a colour difference between these. I'm just going to have a quick nose. So the easiest way to explain what the difference is this would be whole leaf and this one would be, so the original Citra one is whole leaf and the T90 is a hop pellet. Now the reason why you use hop pellets is it has a increased hop utilization when added to the beer, and they're easier to remove as well. just nosing the difference. Okay, that's definitely more pronounced Citra nose there. Let's go and have a taste. Okay, let's compare quickly. I prefer the original. This has a lighter colour as well and is hazy compared to that one. If you're new to Citra, maybe the T90 might be useful, but I feel that there's more Citra flavour, both on the nose and the taste on the original. Yeah, that for me is miles better. This is very much lighter on the taste at that stage. It goes without saying, I'd say that 2020 into 2021 has been difficult for them, and they have faced tough times. When I went to their brew tap last year, the tables were more spaced out, so they couldn't fit as many people as per, well, the requirements that they expected of them. But there were no tables free for walk-in, so thankfully I'd booked the day before and they looked to be doing well. But then we obviously had lockdown over Christmas all the way through till May. And I seen an article from them saying in December 2020, they'd only done 10% of the business that they'd done in 2019. And this is sort of peak Christmas season, which breweries and pubs normally make most of or a lot of their profits through, or at least, cover the normally low Jan to Feb period. Thankfully, they have managed to, sell through shops and direct from the brewery, so they at least have some throughput, and they look like through 2021 the seasonals are coming back, as you can see the cans over there on the edge. Right, this brings us on to core range. So when looking at the core range, we have JHB, which is, I say, 4.2% in the bottle, but it's 3.8 on cask. Bishop's Farewell next to it here, which is 4.6 on cask, and it's 5% here on the bottle, and that's a golden ale. Then we have the Inferno, which is a blonde ale, which was introduced in 2008, and again, stronger in bottle, so it's 4.4 versus 4% in cask. And then we've got the lovely Citra here at the end, which is 4.6 in bottle and 4.2 in cask. Introduced in the year after, I believe, Citra, so that was 2010. In 2011, Scarlet Macau, which is an APA, was introduced. And once again, 4.8 here in the bottle, 4.4 on cask. And also in 2011, they introduced Green Devil. This is a 6% IPA. Same on both cask and bottle, so the only one that I've seen that they do that. They have, I said previously, they have a range of seasonal beers that vary each year. Their recent ones have been the free canned ones that you see here. So we've got the Cryptic Unfiltered IPA, that's 5%, the Citra T90, which is 4.6, and the Green Devil T90, which is, again, as I say, brewed, I understand, to the same recipe as this, just it's the T90 hops that have been used instead of the whole leaf hops that they may be using on here. They also offer a cask aged beer range, so they do age some of their beers in the casks. And obviously, I don't think it's for you to buy, but I think breweries are pubs are able to go buy some of that. So it tends to be the higher beers and seasonal hires that they will put into there. But when I had a look on the site, they had a lot available. They had a Green Devil IPA cask aged, they had a Cryptic IPA cask aged, they had a Black Hole Porter that had been, cask aged. They're quite a lot, which makes for interesting. I would love to go to the brewery tap room and see one of those on. That would have been interesting. It brings us on to sort of the final part now, the awards that they've won. And they've won quite a lot of awards. I've already announced about the JHB winning, but in 2009, they had a beer called Attila, which was a 7.5% double IPA, and that won the National Winter Beer Champion Award. Green Devil has won quite a few awards. So it won Champion Cask Beer at the 2013 International Brewing Awards. Citra won Champion Golden Beer of Britain at the Great British Beer Festival in 2014. Green Devil won in 2015 the Champion Cask Ale, again from before as well. So 1 year after, not 1 year after, a little gap. In 2019, Oakham won Champion Golden Ale of Britain at GBBF for the Citra, and it came bronze, third overall for the overall beer of the festival. And then Green Devil in 2019 won awards. They got a gold at CIBA for cask IPA, and they won bronze in the overall cask category. And they also won Brewery of the Year for 2020 by the Good Pub Guide publication. A lot of awards, but you can see the awards have been mainly going to, well, apart from JHB, it's been these two. They're big hop ones that they've released. And this is amazing. And I've had this before, but it's been a while. I've probably had quite a few of them when I did have them. I think my mate gave me a whole 12 bottles of it at one stage. But yeah, this has been Oakham Ales. This has been the UK Brewery Project. And until next time, keep drinking.